The date is Wednesday the 25th of September, 1816, only 6 years after Ile-de-France came under British rule, and the original island name of Mauritius was restored. Tensions between the governing British and the population were still tense, and the capital Port Louis was about to face a disaster that would forever change its landscape. This is the story of the Great Fire of 1816. The spark and the spread. The fire began around 7 p.m. that evening, in the house of a lawyer, Monsieur Deschamps, on Rue de l'Hôpital, today's Louis Pasteur Street. According to reports, a Creole woman, possibly a female house slave, was sewing in a bedroom by candlelight. The room was full of flammable materials, with 2 beds covered in cloth, and muslin curtains at the windows. In an instant, the candle, knocked by the curtains as they blew in the breeze, set the material alight, and the room was quickly ablaze. The fire, exacerbated by the lack of an organized fire brigade, and a very limited water supply, spread rapidly, and by 3 a.m., the whole area was a raging inferno, with smoke and flames changing direction almost hourly due to the winds. Curiously, at this time, water for official purposes could only be purchased from approved suppliers. A fateful decision. As the fire took hold, a critical recommendation was made to the governor at the time, Sir Robert Farquhar, to immediately demolish the 4 or 5 houses closest to the blaze. The plan was to create a firebreak to stop its advance. However, Sir Robert Farquhar declined. He felt he did not have the legal authority to demolish private property, and that any such action would leave him open to litigation, and having to pay compensation. The irony is that those very houses were lost to the fire anyway, and the cost to the colony of rebuilding the damaged sections far exceeded any compensation that would have been paid. The aftermath and lasting changes. The devastation was immense. Hundreds of buildings were destroyed. Miraculously, not every building was lost, and a few were saved, including Government House itself, thanks to the heroic actions of a British soldier, Sergeant Hasty, and a cobbler. In the fire's aftermath, the government made drastic changes. On the 30th of November 1839, a new ordinance was passed that explicitly prohibited the construction of new wooden buildings in Port Louis. This ordinance is a valuable tool for us today, as we can be fairly sure that any remaining wooden buildings found in Port Louis either predate the fire or were rebuilt in the short window before the ordinance was passed, making them at least 185 years old. Additionally, the town's road layout was altered. Some of the narrower streets were widened, and new roads were constructed to serve as fire breaks, preventing a disaster of this scale from ever happening again. Rue des Pamplemousses, the original road between Port Louis and Pamplemousse, was cut short at Rue de la Corderie, and a new road, currently named after Léoville Lhomme, the Mauritian poet, literary critic, journalist and newspaper editor, was constructed. In conclusion, the Great Fire of 1816 was a turning point for Port Louis. It exposed the vulnerabilities of the town's layout and led to a new era of urban planning and building regulations. The scars of the fire and the lessons learned are still visible today in the wider streets and the materials of the old town, a testament to the town's resilience in the face of disaster.